So what that means now is, that we'll be able to provide the recorded version for every one of us. You'll be able to watch the thing, but more than that, we would also be able to share it with some people who didn't make it for this class, right? Okay. Great. So this is LIMB Simple Business. LIMB Simple company. What we do is our company means acronym. That means Life Investing, Money, and Business Made Simple. And we run the LIMB Simple Business Academy. Okay, just house people would work with a number of these clients, and that's okay. But more important to this conversation is we work with more than 2,400 plus entrepreneurs, and we have more than 17 of our clients that do over $1 billion a year. And a lot of them do a lot more than just $1 billion. Biggest clients do well over 20 billion a year, right? Okay, so here's how I usually like to start. Very, very important. Do not forget what you wanted at the beginning of the year, right? Because I know that a lot of us are beginning to fall into the trap of, where people say things like, oh, 2020 is not such a great year, if you just are alive, it means everything is great. Whatever it is that they say, don't buy that shit, right? This year can still be what you want. I'm achieving all of the goals that I want to achieve. And it's been an amazing year. In fact, it's been a fantastic, we've had a better year. And the reason is because of how you think. And I'm going to be sharing a couple of things from the Strategy Factory as to how you can get yourself back up, right? Please, I would love, just so that we can quickly get that out of the way, I would love you to get a notepad and a pen, because we have a couple of exercises that we're going to do that will require you doing using a notepad and a pen, because most of us will most likely be joining this session with our mobile devices. So please get a notepad, get a pen. It's going to be very, 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 very important that you do so. Because of what's coming, right? And I assure you, this is going to be one of the most important, use of your time this year. I can assure you that, right? Great. If you can turn on your camera, I'd really appreciate it so that I can see our faces. But if it would affect your internet, then probably. You can do whatever suits you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde, for turning on your camera. Thank you so much. I can see you. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. So the question is, one of the things, thanks, Lawrence, for turning this on. So one of the things that I like to remind people of every time I get an opportunity to talk is what they really want, right? And, at the beginning of this year, a lot of us wanted different things. Some of us wanted financial freedom. And we all sort of instinctively know what financial freedom is, the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want, and not necessarily have to worry about how much it costs, right? Some people, come into the business, get into business because they want to be able to make enough money so that they can contribute to society. And, COVID has revealed how much of our brother's keepers we need to be, because a lot of people around us don't seem to have a lot of money. So, imagine if you could help a lot of people. I've had the joy of being able to help as many people as I possibly could in this season. Some people come in because they want to just make enough money to have peace of mind, right? Some people come in, because they want to build assets. And we all know that this is an amazing time. I'm having a good time buying up some assets this season because a lot of people are broke. So they're selling up whatever it is that they have for cheap, right? Everything is cheap now. The stock market is cheap. Real estate is cheap. Everything is cheap because people want money. Imagine if you had significantly huge amount of money to be able to commit to buying assets in this period. Right? So here's what I say. Every time there's like an economic crash, it's an opportunity for people who have done the right thing preceding that time, right? Some people want to make a lot of money because they want good health. And of course, good health isn't cheap, right? I remember a couple of years ago, I'm listening to this guy on radio. He's a fitness expert. And he says, for you to be at optimum health, you need to keep your food intake between 1,200 to 2,800, sorry, to 2,200 calories per day. And I'm in my car and I'm just laughing because, you have to have some shitload of money to be able to calculate calories. For most of us, we eat until our stomach tells us to stop or our pocket tells us to stop, right? But some people can calculate calories. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? Right? Some people want to make a lot of money because they want good quality education for their children. And yes, as a business owner, quality education matters, not because of the education, but because of the network. I was talking to so I do this coaching program. I was talking to somebody this morning that's on my coaching program, just looking to raise $1 million. And we're talking about the fact that it's easier to raise $1 million if you have the right network, right? Because that has to be an emotionally charged decision, right? Some people want to make a lot of money because they want to retire in style, and this is very important because I need to explain this. I see a lot of people. I do a lot of trainings in corporate organizations, like I've seen in the previous slide. Banks and government agencies and hotels. And every time I get an opportunity to see people who like work in an organization, I like to ask them, "What's your plan? I mean, how do you plan? When you retire?" And most people are shocked because they're young and they're not thinking about that far. But I said, look, at some point in your life, you're going to get to the point where you can work as hard, or you'll not be allowed to work as hard. What's your plan at that time? And most people are like, oh, don't worry, the pension fund takes care of it. And the pension fund takes care of it. That's good, but it's important to understand what you're getting, right? It's very, very important to understand what you're getting. Because why is that important? Because most people, because we don't think too far, what happens is that we're so small on today's excitement. Right? So I'll give you a typical example. So imagine that you have a job that allows you, imagine that you have a job. Most of us here are entrepreneurs. So let's assume that you had a job. And this analogy is very important because you can also share it with people in your network, right? So imagine that you have a job that allows you to put away $50,000 every single month into your retirement account. Now, if you know people who have jobs, you know that that's a decent job, right? Now, if you could do that every single month, how much would that be in a year? That would be $600,000 a year. Right, 600K. Let's assume that you could put away that amount of money every single year for the next 20 years, right? 20 years. Let me find my words. So let's assume, for example, that you have a job that you can put 50K every single month, right, into that retirement account. Now, in a year, that would be 600K, right? Great. So let's assume that you could put out that 600,000 every single month, every single year for the next 20 years. Right? Until you have to retire. Now, if you tag in, assuming that, which is essentially the case, assuming that you get 10% guaranteed interest on your contribution, you get, consistent savings, 10% guaranteed interest, and you get something called compounding interest. If you put all these factors together, when you eventually retire, you would have about 32.2 million in your retirement account, which is amazing. Most people would love an opportunity to have this kind of money, right? However, when you look at this, Kiyosaki says that there's always three sides to every story. There's the side that you're told, there's the side you believe, and then there's truth. How many of us here would like to hear the truth? If you want to hear the truth, raise up your hand. I can see some of us. Great. Now, to be able to understand in 20 years, the reality is that you will get this 32.2 million. But the question we haven't asked is what this 32.2 million now will be worth 20 years from now. Because there is a way to calculate it. So what's happening is that we're sold tomorrow on today's excitement. Now, a simple illustration is to say, to understand what it will be worth, we need to go back to the past. So let's go back to a year like 1986, right? 1986. In 1986, if my dad had, or your dad, or if you're older, if you had 3,500, you could buy a brand new car in 1986, right? Of course, not a Maserati or a Bentley, but 3,500 could buy you a brand new car in 1986, right? Brand new, not fairly used, right? Now, and 3,005, for those of us that are millennials, is not back pocket change. In fact, for many civil servants in 1986, 3,005 was more than their annual salary. It was a shitload of money. It was a lot of money back then, right? So assuming that my dad's got 3,005, he's going to buy a brand new car. But his friend says, no, you could, and by the way, I mean, in 1986, it wasn't like you go and visit your uncle and you're going home and he gives you 3,005 as transfer money. That was some people's annual salary, so it was a lot. So if you had 3,005, You had to have a high-paying job, or you had to have the opportunity to have saved pretty well, right? So let's assume that my dad's got $3,500. He's going to buy a brand new car in 1985 rather, or 1986, whichever way. And his friend says, no, put that money in a savings account, in a savings plan or in a retirement plan. Do you know what's going to happen in 20 years? So he does that. He does that every single year. He saves up $3,500. He gets 20 years of savings. He gets compounded interest. He gets 10% interest, the same 10% that produced the 32.2 million. When he retires in 20 years and he gets his money, what would happen is that he will retire 20 years. The same calculation that produced 32.2 million will produce 224,600 for him. Now, 224,000 is the lot coming from 3,005, but here's the problem. He gets this money in 2005. 2005, 224,600. Would that buy him a fairly used car? A brand new car? Would that even buy him a useless car? It won't even buy him a useless car. Why is that important to note? It's because one of the things that financial experts tell us, that the challenge with savings is that it's a very good habit, but it's a very bad strategy, because you're saving something that is losing value faster than it is gaining numbers. Right? Very, very, very important. So if you're interested, for example, in retiring in style, guess what? You need to work a little harder, right? So what happens with most of us is that we set up a business. And then 2020 happened and everybody's wondering about COVID-19. So the first thing that I want you to know is that you have to agree with yourself, you have to agree with yourself that COVID-19 happened for you, not to you. Why is this important? Because once you understand that something happened for you, then the question is, why did it happen for you? What's the bigger play here? If you feel like something happened to you, then you're the victim, right? I remember where I was when the first lockdown in Lagos, or the first social distancing measures in Lagos started, right? We have this, of course, the strategy factory, we hold it every month. It was going to hold in Sheraton. The coming week, I was in Warri. I had just done a strategy session for an organization there on a Saturday, and I had another one in the same city on Wednesday, so I was in a hotel. And immediately we heard about, I've been following the news, and then immediately I heard about it, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? So the first thought was, oh, this is just going to be, because the first lockdown or the first social distancing thing was about 2 weeks, right? And I said, this is just going to be for 2 weeks. But I remember that I asked myself a question. What if this happens for 8 years? Sorry, for 8 months rather. What if it goes on for a full year? How am I going to figure this out? And that singular question changed our business. Because it turns out now that as a business, we did, during the COVID-19, right now we've been able to create products and sell to over 750 people at that time, in that period, right? Massive amounts of success. In fact, more success than we ever did pre-COVID. And what I want to do is share with you that one of the things that helped us is this mindset, right? So what I want to share with us is the first model. This first model is one of the most important models in the strategy factory. And I hope that it turns out for you to be as important as I think it is. Because if you get this first model, even if you end up not coming to the strategy factory at all, it will change your life like it's done for hundreds and hundreds of people that have been there, right? So the first model in the strategy factory, because it's a business strategy session, we have to ask, what is a business? And people who know me know that the way I like to deal with things is to find the simplest definition of a word and then explain that definition. Because once people understand what a word means and understand how to explain it, it just makes it easy, right? I'm not one of those consultants that would complicate things. The problem with people in my industry is that we would make things very complex. And I always say that complexity is the enemy of execution. If I sit you here and you learn a couple of things and I throw big jargons, execute anything, and then that's nonsense, right? I want to be able to make sure that you can execute. And there are many, many, many good definitions for business. However, what I have found is that is that the best definition I found is from a guy called Josh Kaufman. Josh Kaufman wrote a book called The Personal MBA. Please look for that book if you can find it. It's probably even online. It's been a long time, so it's not a particularly new book. I think it's about 15 years old now, or 10 years old here, or more, 15 years old, 2005. You know, so fantastic book. He says that a business is number one, a repeatable process. And this is very, very important. Repeatable process. Repeatable process is key. If the processes in your business are not repeatable, you don't really run a business. So the first thing is it's a repeatable process that, one, creates and delivers something of value. Two, that other people want or need. Three, at a price they are willing to pay. Four, in a way that satisfies the customer's needs and desires. And five, so that the business brings in enough profit to make it worthwhile for the owners to continue operation. This, for me, is the most classic definition of a business. And what we'll do over the next 45 minutes is just explain it, just so that you understand it. So again, just think about this, right? You want to start a business. First thing you have to figure out is, what am I bringing to the market, right? And whatever you're bringing to the market must be valuable, right? The customer must consider it valuable. Then you figure out that I'm bringing this to the market, I'm producing this, I'm creating this product or this service or whatever it is. And then the question is, do people want it or do people need it, right? Because and I'm not trying to choose between want or need. It's the fact that people must either want it or need it. So if you take, for example, the iPhone, we did not need the iPhone before it came, but it's come and it's walked its way into a number of our lives, and now we incredibly want it, right? And some of us have even gone from wanting it to needing it, right? The third is at a price they're willing to pay. How do you find the right people that you will be able to sell this thing to that are willing to pay, and in a way that satisfies the customer needs and expectation, so that you can bring in enough profit to make it worthwhile to continue? So we're going to spend the next couple of minutes explaining that definition. The first of them, remember, is to create value. So the first question I have to ask you is, your business or your business idea, how valuable would your offering be post-COVID? How valuable would it be, or how valuable is it at the moment? And in that part, I'd like to talk about the idea viability of our business, right? Your business must be viable. The idea must be viable. And I have four different tests that I usually take businesses through to determine how viable your business is. The first of them, of course, population demography and their peculiarities are strong indicators. When you're thinking about how viable a business is, there's a model in strategy factor we talk about personality. So we look at the social, cultural factors in Nigeria and look at what the impact of our population has in how businesses are run. And we'll use examples of people like Slot, Apple, GT Bank, exactly how they've been able to take advantage of this. So there are four ways I like to show people how to validate the viability of the ideas. Number one is this idea that you have, or this business that you're pursuing, does it serve a huge expanding market? Very important. You see, because some of us, the business that we're in is in a closing market, right? So for example, I had one of my coaching clients, she's in Jos, runs a big business. I mean, her business does, we looked at her numbers, she does an average of 90 to 120 million every single month in revenue. And about 20% of her business is, in Jos, is the sale of recharge cards, 20%. So they sell gadgets and phones and all that kind of stuff. They have a satellite business, but 20% of their business is the sale of recharge cards, right? And I told her, that look, you have to prep before the COVID really hit. I said, look, you need to wind down this business, wind down that particular business, because it's already a shrinking market. GT Bank did 400 billion in airtime recharge last year. Banks are beginning to take that opportunity. And so we get into COVID and we start to see that GT Bank or GT Bank and what's his name? Wema Bank, and even telecom providers like Airtel was beginning to encourage individuals to run like a small recharge card business and say, if you go to our app and you can sell recharge cards to your neighbors and you make some money. I said, look, that's what's going to happen because people are coming into that business, right? So it's a shrinking market. So if you want to be successful, you need to be getting out of markets that are shrinking and getting into markets that are expanding. So a typical example is the PC market. So if you look at this is a laptop, right? A PC. This market is dying. Why? Because the world is going more mobile than PC. That's the reason why the guys who started the PC market, IBM, are already out of that market today. They are no longer selling PCs, right? That's the reason why Microsoft is translating all of their digital assets and they're no longer selling CDs for Microsoft Office and all of that. They are moving everything to the cloud, right? Microsoft moved everything to the cloud and became the most valuable business in America. What $1.55 trillion right now as we speak, just about like $100 million ahead of Apple and about $200 million ahead of Amazon as we speak right now, right? So you want to get out. Is the market shrinking? Is the market expanding? So just take a look at your business and say, the people that I will be serving, are they getting more or are they getting less? Right? If they're getting less, you need to get out of that market very, very quickly, right? And if they are not getting less, if they're getting more, then you need to get into the market quickly, right? The second thing is, can this your business or this your idea, can it be developed into a unique product, right? Can it be developed into a unique product? Now, and here, I'm not just talking about uniqueness in the product offering. I'm talking about uniqueness also in how we present the product, or uniqueness in our packaging, or uniqueness in our service provision, right? Because sometimes you don't have to, sometimes we break our heads too hard in wanting to be the most unique people in a particular business, but you don't need to create a unique product, you just need to create a unique way to bring it into market. I'll give you a perfect example. Now, let me ask you a question. I'm going to the comment section, so I want to ask you, how many of us, what bank started USSD code banking? Which bank started USSD code banking? Like the star 737, the 931, all of that. Which bank started it? I want to see your opinion in the comment section. I want you, what bank you think started it, and I want you to post it in the comment section quickly. What bank? Somebody says, Fumi says GT Bank, great. Who else? GT Bank, great. Who else? I want to get like 5 or 10 responses. GTB, okay. Who else? GTB, who else? Keep going, keep going. Who else? GTB again, okay. Who else? You see, this is the amazing thing about this analogy, right? Is that a lot of us agree that it is GTB, and it's not. GTB did not start USSD banking. Guess the bank that started USSD banking? It was First Bank. First Bank started USSD banking. But why do we all think it's GTB? And that's why this is important. So First Bank, when they started USSD banking, what happened was that they were trying, the ideology when they started USSD banking was that they wanted to rival, or they wanted to compete with the guys like Paga and all those guys that do agent banking, right? They wanted to compete. So the idea was that they wanted to try and see how they can get the unbanked in, but it didn't work. Yeah, the old bank, yeah, but it didn't work for them because the communication was just didn't match. They were sending the same people out to talk to bring in CASA, savings and current and savings account, to bring in savings and current account, and they were sending them to market women. The language was different. It was impossible for you to educate those people. As simple as USSD banking was, it was impossible for staff to educate people to do it because they didn't have the right education tool. And the education tool was not going to be their start. The second bank that went into USSD banking was Stanbic. When Stanbic got into USSD banking, it was also a mismatch for them at the beginning because Stanbic, majority of their clients were working class people who already had access to computers. They could already transfer things online themselves. And now you're telling them to use USSD banking and still pay you for it. No, they're not going to do that. So what GT Bank decides to do, GT Bank asks themselves, we're not the first to get into the market, but can we bring the product uniquely into the market? And what happened was that they asked, who are the most influential group of people in the country? They pinpointed the young person, that if we can educate the young person how to use USSD banking, the young person would educate his father, educate his grandmother, they would educate the entire populace. And remember, when they decided to come into the market, guess what they did? They came up with an entire sound, an entire music track, right? I'm sure, as I'm even mentioning now, the track is ringing in our heads, right? Exactly. And when they came in, they just bulldozed the entire market and it looked like they came in first. And why is that important? Because sometimes uniqueness is not in the product, but in how the product is presented to market, right? So can you present that product uniquely to the market? If you can, then you have something going. It's the same thing with Apple. Apple phones or the iPad or the iPod was never, ever, 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 ever the first person to get into the category. Never. When the iPod was around, there were already music players, there were already digital music players. But Apple introduced it differently to the market with iTunes. When Apple came up with their phones, there were already phones in the market, right? But Apple brought the phone, the camera, and the iPod into one device, right? Very, very important to know that sometimes you don't have to be the first to get to market. You just have to be the one that brings it to the market differently, right? Very, very important, right? For us to know. And number 3 is the idea in its time. Because there's such a thing as timing in business, because if you don't look at the timing, what would happen is that when you come into a business before its time, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to know what it costs to stay alive. Because what happens is that when you come into a business before its time, you are saddled with the responsibility of educating the market. Sometimes you educate the market and you're dead before the market gets the point, right? So think about, most of us can think about Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and all of that, and that's all great. But what we don't realize that to pave the way for Facebook was Hi-Fi, MySpace. Those businesses came in and educated us about social networking, but they didn't have resources to stay alive when we were educated. So they died off. So if you must start, and we're going to be teaching strategies at the Strategy Factory. If you're going to, I have had a business that started before its time, and we put up strategies on how to mitigate, because people will come into the market. How do you kick them out of the market? And how do you get your business going forward? Now, if you can't figure that out, then you do what Adenuga did, right? Invest all your business in other things and keep your eye on the market. Adenuga wanted to go into telecoms. In fact, he bought his telecom license way long before even MTN got into the country. But he knew that we weren't ready, so he kept his money, and waited until the market was already growing. And then he came in at the time where he could offer something that was practical and that was groundbreaking, and he just took the market by storm, right? And now he's, whether you like it or not, whether he has many subscribers or not, Glo is perhaps the biggest telecoms network that we have in Nigeria, because every other telecoms network and almost 90% of our internet facility in Nigeria runs on their infrastructure. Very, very important. And then lastly, can it give you leverage? The business idea that you're nursing, you want to grow, can it give you leverage? Because if your business is growing and the growth of your business demands way more of your time, you have built a situation where you are gainfully self-employed and not an entrepreneur, right? So you want to make sure that you can be an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur can scale, can grow, and can build something that gives him or her leverage, right? So those are the 4 ways to determine whether your business is viable. However, I want to share with you something that I have noticed within this COVID-19, that within the post-COVID-19, especially since we're still sort of in the era that is making money right now, right? I realized, and these are the questions that I had to ask myself when COVID-19 was raging. We said, okay, who are the people that are getting the money now? And we realized that there are 4 types of people getting money now. Anybody that has anything that can help people stay healthy would make money. So hospitals are making money, PPEs are making money, health, protective, whatever, they're all making money, right? Anybody that can help people make money will make money. So if you can teach people how to grow their business in this period, you can teach them how to, whatever it is, if it helps them make money. So you find industries like network marketing and all of these schemes that enable people to actually get out there and make money, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, all of those things are going to be good for the next 18 months to 2 years. Anybody that enables people to stay connected is going to make money. So that's why you see the valuation of Facebook and all these guys have gone above the roof. But more than just staying connected is anybody can help people stay connected. So you see in Nigeria, the logistics business has boomed in this period because logistics business help people stay connected, help products move between people, and also anybody that can help people stay sane would make a lot of money. So that's why you find that a lot of new comedians are rising up in this period, right? Because people are frustrated sitting at home. So they're watching Mr. Macaroni, they're watching billionaire Prince White, they're watching Brother Shaggy, they're watching those guys. I mean, just think about COVID-19 made the Mr. Macaroni brand, you know? Because nobody really cared about the guy before COVID came in. And COVID came in, we're all stuck at home, we have to watch the guy. And now everybody's saying you're doing well, right? Everybody now knows you're doing well, you know? So the idea is if you're in comedy, you can make a lot of money now. If you can help people stay connected, you're a relationship counselor, you're an emotional coach, or whatever it is, or you can connect people, you run a logistics business and all that, you're gonna make money. If you can help people make money, you make money. If you can help people stay healthy, you make money, right? That's just something I wanted to add additionally so that you can realize the power of what COVID-19 has brought and the opportunities that it brings. So now we move to the second point. Remember, the first point is that you create something of value. And then second thing is that everybody wants or needs. And here I'm talking about how needed is your offering. And I'm not really talking, I'm talking about the concept of utility versus luxury. And I'm not talking about the price now. I'm talking about your product or your service. Is it sparingly used or is it used consistently? Do people consider it at the top of their list or something that they use sparingly, right? So you have to make whatever it is that you use. So, and a typical example would be, so if you take a look at the iPhone, for example, right? It's a pretty expensive device. However, Apple has created such a brand that almost everybody feels like they need to have a phone. Why? Because how many of us here have noticed that, how many of us here know somebody that uses an iPhone, right? Have you noticed that people who use an iPhone, they have this sense in which they feel like they made it in life? You know, they carry themselves as if they made, especially if they use like the very recent iPhone, like the iPhone X, or they use the iPhone 11 or 11 Pro Max or the 11 Pro. They walk around significantly boldly, right? So the question is, how do you convert something that is such a luxury into something that is significantly used concept? And so you find brands like Hermes. I mean, you can't even walk into Hermes and buy a Birkins bag. It's $10,000. And even with that, you just can't even walk and buy it. It's always not available. How do you make something that expensive and yet it's always scarce, right? How do you create a business? We're going to be teaching you how do you create a business that is consistently needed, right? And it doesn't matter the price of your product, you have to be able to connect to something in the mind of the consumer. And so Coca-Cola, for example, is not healthy, but they sell 2 billion bottles a day. Where on earth do they do that? And that's because they don't focus on selling beverage and sugar and cola, they focus on selling happiness. So to be able to get your product to the point where it's needed consistently, You need to attach that product to a primary emotion. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Sorry, we'll talk about that when you come to the strategy factor, by the way. So how willing are your customers to pay for your service? Remember, point 3 is that people are willing to pay for your service. And the willingness of people to pay for your service is not just determined by how good your service is, it's also determined by your customer targeting. Who are you targeting? Not all products are for every set of people. There are different people. People exist in the social structure in different levels. Some people exist at physiological level. I mean, they just want basics: food, water, shelter, right? Sex, just basic things, right? So you realize that there are some businesses that would never, ever, 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 ever go out of business, right? Like buying food would never go out of business because people must eat. If people are not eating, they are not even ready to think, they're not even ready to do anything, right? Oh, great. Who did that? Oh, Luatosin, thanks a lot. Josh Kaufman. So if you're in the group, you can pick up the MBA, the personal MBA. Fantastic book, by the way. And if you can pick it up from here, I will drop it in the WhatsApp group that we are all in later today, right? So you can pick up, you can address, and there are different businesses. You can have a food business that addresses this poorest of the poor, and you make a lot of money. There's a lot of them. You can have a food business that addresses these people. You can have a food business that addresses. So here you find maybe Chicken Republic, right? Here you find maybe Golden Gate, right? Here you'll be talking about maybe dinner in France, in the south of France. I had an opportunity to have buffet in the tallest hotel in the world, right? JW Marriott, an amazing hotel in Dubai, right? You know, and I mean the what do you call it? So I had a meeting with my mentor. So we're gonna have a meeting, there in Dubai, and my mentor was paying. I was there with my wife and my son, and so we had this dinner. It was massive buffet. It was every single cuisine from everywhere in the world was represented there. So I mean, of course you eat, buffet, you can take whatever it is that you want. I didn't even know how much it was until we're done. And I realized that, the buffet was about 90,000 naira per one. Amazing, isn't it? So, I mean, some people would say 90,000 naira, no, they're not going to do that, right? So people do business at different. So a funny story that I'll tell you is that I was in Abuja. This was, I think it was 2009 or 2010. I think it must have been either one of those 2 years, right? So I'm going with my friend to Silverbird Cinemas in Abuja, right? So we get to cinemas, and if you've ever been to Silverbird Cinemas in Abuja, you know that you buy tickets on the 3rd floor, and then you go to the cinema on the 4th floor. But on the 6th floor is still the same cinema, but like a private, like a VIP section. That's what they call it, right? So we were paying 1,500 to watch the movie on the 4th floor. But the people on the 6th floor, what they were paying was 20,000 naira, and they were essentially watching the same movie that we were watching. But it was more comfortable. I mean, the whole 9 years, networking and all that kind of stuff. So I remember as we bought our tickets and we're going, we're in the elevator going into the 4th floor. And when we got out of the elevator, my friend was really, really angry. It was like, why are some people going to the 6th floor? It's not the same movie. It's not the same thing, blah, blah, blah. I said, Shehu, listen, only talk about things. Things make sense to us at different levels. He said, what do you mean? I said, listen, as both of us are talking about this right now, and we're happy to spend 1,500 for a ticket, somebody is driving at the front of this Silverbird Cinemas and is looking at you, us walking in and saying, this useless. They are going to use 1.5 to buy a movie. Whereas I will take that 1.5, use 100 naira and buy 16 in one. That has all the movies in that, all the 16 movies that they are all going to watch in that place. And then I'll use 1,000 naira and buy fuel, and I would have a time of my life. So to some people, spending 1,500 for a movie is undoable. To some other people, it's acceptable. To some people, spending, but the people that is acceptable to, spending 20,000 for the same movie is also not acceptable. So as a business, to be able, there is nothing as frustrating as trying to sell a product or service to somebody that is not an ideal customer. right? I mean, just take a look at me, for example. I mean, I know I'm going to get, I know, I mean, I like to think that I may be successful. But if you come to me and you want to sell me a Maserati right now, if I want to encourage you, I'll give you a post-dated check that will clear in the year 2051. You know, maybe my money will have been complete by then. Because I ain't going to buy a Maserati. I mean, I'm not going to buy a Maserati for $2.2 million, right? That's right now when dollar is almost at 500 naira, right? That's about 1.2 billion naira for a car. No, I'm not going to do that. However, it'll be stupid of me to think that somebody cannot succeed in that business because I won't do that, right? So at every different level, we have needs and we have our levels at every different level, right? So as a business owner, the question I have for you, and we're going to deal with that more at the strategy factor, but are you talking to the right people for you? Or is your business targeted to the right person? See, now let me explain what it means. Because a lot of the time, a lot of us start our business, but because we think it's cheaper to be here and serve these people here, we want to quickly start the business at that level. But we also don't realize that there's a deception in business model here. That because this place is cheaper doesn't mean you will be successful. Some of us are targeting our business at people at this level when we should be targeting people at this level or this level. Why? Because if you start at this level, there are a lot of people, yes, but the profit margin is so small that scaling it requires huge amounts of finances. So a typical example is to think about when you were growing up, right? Think about that woman that was selling something on the streets, right? It was easy for her to start. Maybe the shop was 10,000 naira per year. But guess what happens? 20 years down the line, she's still there. She's still trying to sell the same thing. She just looks older. The shop isn't grown. Nothing has grown. Why? Because to be able to scale that business, you need massive amount of capital. Because by the time you finish selling 2 cartons of biscuits, you've only made 100 naira. But the 100 naira that you have made, your children have come back. They've all eaten 5 biscuits each. So if you see those kind of women, they always need money. They always are looking for money for I remember in 2013, there was an article written about me in Punch, you know, and so somebody contacted me and I had an opportunity to work with her. She had just resigned, she had resigned from the bank about 2 years before. And she got her gratuity, which was a lot of money at the time. But she got an idea that she starts like a Pepsi distributorship business. You know, so she started and she said she put in like 12 million naira and she had run an entire business down to like 1 to 2 million naira. So I had to tell her to shut that business down. Why? Because, you know, Pepsi and Coca-Cola and beverage delivery looks like a big business, but it's only a big business for the person who has massive amounts of capital. Because she took this large warehouse that was storing things, she had bosses, she had boss boys, all of those irregularities, all of those costs could not be covered by the amount of inventory that she was buying. So she was losing money on the daily, on the monthly basis, on the yearly basis. You know, I remember her words to me, she was like, I'm an accountant. And I understand that in business, money should be coming in, not going out. So I told her, I said, look, you are targeting the wrong market for you. All right, you're doing the wrong business. There are some business, they look cheap to get into, but they are also pretty expensive to scale. So we're also going to be looking at each of our businesses and asking, some of us are making clothes that we're selling for 5 or 10,000 naira, but we should be selling for 20 or 30,000 naira if we can change who we're trying to sell to. Because at that price that we're selling, we don't have the resources to mass produce and to sell in large quantities so that we can pick ourselves up and be really, really successful, right? Now, we're talking about how satisfied do you leave your clients? Remember, point 4 is that you have to meet their need in such a way that it meets their needs and expectations, right? So, and here we're not talking about just customer selling, we're talking about customer astonishment. How do you lead them? How do you help them to actually become raving fans, right? And I wrote it up there I attended a program a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the UPW. And one of the things we're asked is, look, do we have raving fan clients? Do you have raving fan clients? You know, and the only way you can have raving fan clients is to over-deliver. You know, if you give them just what they pay for, they don't owe you anything. But if you give them more than what they pay for, guess what? You know, they owe you everything. And the last question I'm going to be asking is, how profitable is your business? This is the point where I need us to pull out our notepad. You see, because for you to be able to have a profitable business, the first thing is that the entrepreneur must be taken care of. So we talk a lot about the entrepreneur getting paid, and I believe, and I really agree with the concept of the entrepreneur paying himself a salary. But what I ask a lot of the time is, how much should your business pay you? Have you calculated it? So I want to help you understand how much your business should pay you. How many of us would like to know? And the way I want to let you know is to help you realize how much you spend on the month. A lot of us think we know how much you spend on a monthly basis, but how many of us would like to take my financial intelligence test? If you'd like to take it, say yes. If you'd like to take it, say yes. And mind you, please, if you're going to take it, you have to, it's a series of questions that I would ask you. You have to write it down. You have to take it, because most people, every time I take this program, I do this test, most people never finish it. But if you do finish it, it might change the way your business runs. Possibly. All right? When we do this test, it will take about 5 minutes or 10 minutes for us to do. But when you take it, I would ask you a couple of questions, and then we would call it a day. All right? Okay, so we've gotten some yeses. Yeah, okay, great. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that wealth is measured in time and not numbers. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it matters how long it takes, right? Because if you have 1 million naira and you burn 100,000 a month and you don't have any income, guess what happens? In 10 months, you'll be in trouble, right? So this test I'm about to take you through it. Most people will never go through the whole thing. But if you like yourself, please do. All right? So I'm going to move to the next page now. You can take a screenshot, but I'm going to explain each factor so that you'll be able to understand and actually write it down, right? So I want you to take your notepad. Please open your camera. I want to see us actually writing. I want you to take your notepad. For a lot of us, the first thing I want you to write, now if I call anything that you don't spend money on, please, you can omit it, you can skip it, doesn't matter, right? So the first thing that is on our list there is rent. Most of us here pay rent, right? Now, I want you to take a screen grab of this because you're also going to do this for your business, but I just want to focus on doing this for yourself, just for you yourself, right? As the entrepreneur whose business pays in some income, because we want to realize how much we are taking from our businesses. So most of us here pay rent, right? But a lot of us pay our rent annually. So what I want you to do is that I want you to take the money for your rent. So let's assume your rent is 600,000 a year. I want you to divide that by 12. And write down that figure because I want to see how much rent is due every month. So if your rent is 600,000, it means that you would not write 600,000, you would write 50,000 because that's 50,000 a month, isn't it? All right? Let me be playing music while we're doing this so that you can hear me. Right? So if you've written it, I want you to say yes. If you've done it, I want you to write rent. If you've written the figure for rent, I want you to write rent. Okay, good. Good. I want to see as many of us that will write it. I want to follow you very, very closely to be sure that everybody does this. Don't move to the next one until I explain it to you. So remember, you're writing the rent, but you're not writing the annual fee, you're writing the monthly fee, right? So let's say your rent is 1 million, for example. What you would write down is 1 million divided by 12, so that would be 83,300. Right? If you've done it, I want you to write rent. If you don't pay rent, it's okay, you can skip, that's fine. Next is transportation. Now, a lot of us here have a car. Most of us here have cars. And so what that means is that you buy fuel consistently. Okay. Iyanolua says she can't hear me. Please, can anybody else hear me so that we're sure it's not from me? If you can hear me, I want you to write, I can hear you, so that I know. If I get 2 people who say that, I know that it's not from my corner here. So that we can move on to the next one. If you can hear me, please, I want you to write, okay, I can hear you. Okay, great. Thank you. So, Iyanolua, you might need to check your internet because now, since other people can hear me, then it means that it's not from my corner here. Okay, good. So the next is transportation. So if you have a car, for example, and you buy fuel weekly, how much fuel do you buy for your car monthly? So you write transportation, and then you write the figure monthly. So let's say it's 40,000, you put 40,000 monthly, right? Then, for those of us that don't have cars, what's your transportation budget? Could it be 500 naira per day? If that's it, scale that up by 30 days, which is averagely a month, that would be 15,000. Let me know if you've done that. If you've done that, I want you to write done. Please don't write it in your head. Get a notepad and actually write it out, right? I'm serious. It's going to really change your life if you actually do it. Don't say I'll do it later or whatever. Just do it, right? Very, very important. Next is utilities, right? So when you write utilities, under utilities, I want you to write, the first one here is light bill. Most of us here pay light bill. Whatever it's called in your country, because we have some people here from out of the country. So, light bill, whatever you pay for light bill a month, write that down. Next is estates. If you live in an estate and you pay some form of estate or security bill, write that down. Most of us have some form of cable TV. Write that down. Most of us have some form of generator, you know, like we buy fuel for our generators and stuff. If you're responsible for that, please write that down. If your husband is responsible, still write that down. So under utilities, we have light bill, we have security bill or estate bill, we have cable TV, we have alternative lights, generators or whatever. Have you written that down? If you've written that down, I want you to write done. Okay, good. Someone said transportation done. So utility done. I want you to write utilities done. Good, good. I'm going to wait for 2 people to say utility done and we'll move on to the next one, right? Okay, good. Some of us have said that. So let's move to, so feeding costs. Feeding costs is a little bit different from your groceries at home. Feeding cost is most of us here sort of live and work in different places. So there's somewhere close to your office where you buy stuff to eat, maybe lunch or something. Whatever that cost is, it might be little, maybe like 1,000 naira, or it might be 500 naira. Scale that up by 25 days. It's averagely 25 working days in a month. So scale that up by 25 days. And that should give you what that is. So if you're done, if you've done that, I want you to write feeding cost done. So we can see that, right? Feeding cost done. Okay, I'll wait for 2 more people and then we'll move that. Okay, 1 more person. Okay, great. So next is what we call groceries. Groceries is like food stuff for the house, toiletries, all of that kind of stuff. It's usually a very significant budget for some of us, for most of us rather. So I want you to, and it might be difficult to figure out if you don't buy things monthly, but I want you to sort of think about it and write down something that you think is commensurate, something that you think is practicable for you. And then if you're done that, I want you to write groceries done. I want you to write how much. Good. Groceries done for 1 person. Groceries done for Clara. Anybody else? Done, Femi. Great, great. Oh, Femi, it's great to see you. Feeding costs done. Are you done with groceries too? Groceries done. Shigi Music. I don't know who that is. Okay, great. So next is school fees. Most of us here have, pay school fees. If your children are not yet in the university, chances are that you pay school fees 3 times a year. Now, if you pay school fees 3 times a year, what I need you to do, so let's assume first term is like 100K, and second term is like 250K, and then third term is like 150K. So I need you to add all 3 of them together. That would give you 500,000, then divide that by 12. So that gives you how much school fees is due every single month from your income. Right? And then do that for all your kids, by the way, right? Because they don't do buy one, get one free in schools these days. Right? If you find that school, let me know. I'd like to take my children to that place. Yeah. What I've seen in my son's school is buy 5, get 1 free, right? And in my son's school fees is pretty pricey. If you have 5 children in that school, you deserve to have 1 free. You really deserve to have 1 free, right? Okay, school fees done. Anybody else? Anybody else? School fees done. I'd like to wait for 3 more people. If you are on this class and you're not doing this, you're not doing yourself a huge service because you might not be able to sleep tonight because you would just feel like you don't know something that is really, really missing. So I think I'd encourage you to do it. The results might shock you, but it will change you. Over the next 6 months, you would have a completely different life, because you realize you would have something that most human beings don't have, mortality motivation. Okay, good. Anybody else? I'm waiting for 2 more people to indicate that they have done that, and then I'll move. Sometimes. Anybody else? I'm waiting for 2 more people. I usually get this. Sometimes by the time people get to school fees, and that's when they realize that they're in trouble, so they stop. Don't be the one that stops. Keep going. So who else is going to indicate that they've done that? My internet went off a little bit, so I'm back. If you can hear me, please, I'd like you to say I can hear you. If you can hear me, please let me know you can hear me now. I had to switch my internet provider, so I need to get my slides back. Sorry, you can hear me? Okay, great. So how many of us are done with oh, great. I mean, if you don't pay school fees for your kids, fantastic. Oh, okay, yeah. You own the school. That's an amazing thing, man. Don't we all wish we own schools? Right? Great. So, okay, so a number of us have done school fees. So next is what I call personal expense. Personal expense is what you consider that you spend on yourself every month. For ladies, it's a little bit more, manicure, pedicure, and all the cures. Fortunately, we've not had that much spending in the last couple of months because of COVID, which is a bit a blessing in disguise. No Ashwebi and all that stuff. You know, even though I heard some people buy Ashwebi, they buy Ashwebi and they still do a Zoom wedding. So, you know, I don't know how crazy that is, but it's very, very important, right? Okay, so very important. I want you to write your personal expense as a guy, as a lady, whatever it is, that, and then when you're done, write it monthly, by the way. When you're done, I want you to say, I am done. All right, personal expense done. We're almost done. We'll be done in another 5-10 minutes. Okay, and then if you're done with personal expense, I'd like you to write childcare expense. If you have a child, and you know, of course, now Femi is going to even represent here, because even when you don't pay school fees, you pay some other things, right? Pocket money, all the other things that you spend on your child that is not school fees, right? Diapers, all that kind of stuff. I want you to just detail it down, and let's go with that, right? Let me know when you're writing that out. Okay, have you written that down? I want you to write done if you're done. Personal expense done. Okay, Chigi music said he's done. Let me just rush down. And then we've done childcare expense. Next is communication. Most of us, how much do you spend on data? How much do you spend on airtime? Just write that down monthly. It's usually, a lot of us think it's a lot, but it's usually not that much. So just write it out. Write it out. And then how much is your giving budget? A lot of us here, we sort of give. We give maybe to our parents, to our churches, to our mosques, to some charity. On the average, what's your giving budget in a month? Like, if you don't have one, you should have one going forward. But most of us should be able to just estimate, just by thinking about it, you should be able to estimate. And then lastly, other expenses, so if you have a house help or you have a driver or we didn't talk about your gas or hospital bill and all that, just put something that you think would suffice for monthly miscellaneous expenses, right? So when you're done with everything, I want you to write finally done. And then I want you to calculate every single thing. I want you to add it up from start to finish so that you're looking at that number right now. Beautiful. So Lara, I want you to just add up every single thing. You don't have to post it here, but I want you to add up every single, because every single thing will culminate to a figure. And the figure that you're looking at is exactly how much you spend every month. Or at least how much you spend every month. Right? Because we didn't cover everything. Because some of us go on vacation, or rather used to go on vacation. And when you're finished adding it up, I want you to tell me how you feel. How eager are you right now to make more money? I'm going to give you 1 more minute to be able to add up. It's not so much adding. Someone said I'm really eager. Finally done. Add it all up. Add it all up. If you've added it up, I want you to give me a one-word reaction. Somebody said, God will help us. Very true. Somebody said, God no go shame us. So now I know what happens with my money. Yeah. So the question I want to ask you now is, does your business pay you that amount of money as a salary? If your business doesn't pay you that amount of money as a salary, you are robbing your business. You see, because if you notice, everything that we have written down are things that you actually spend money on. No, this is not a tentative list. This is an actual list that you actually spend money on, right? So if you're not earning that money, then you need to make more money. But that's not the big question that we answer in the Strategy Factory, right? The big question that we'd like to answer for you in the Strategy Factory is, how big does your business need to get to be able to pay 20 people in your organization such a monthly salary? That's the big question that we all need to ask ourselves, right? Because if you really want to grow a huge business, you must be concerned about the ambitions of the people in your business that work with you. Because a lot of the time, a lot of us have built so small businesses because we are only thinking about ourselves, about how much we'll make, right? But think about it. Everybody that works with you wants to be able to at least have the kind of life that you have. So you must be thinking about them and how they can build, how you can build such a business that they can also have. Because guess what? If people know that the capacity to grow and earn significantly more resides with them being in your business, they'll stay with you for the long haul. The reason why people have staff that stay very short is because, it's not clear, our guys changing everything, but we're not seeing commensurate income in the business. And people are working hard. They are seeing the results that they're producing, but they're not seeing the commensurate income. All right? So that's what this business, the Strategy Factory, is about, right? So we're not sure when life will return to normal. It's already beginning to return to normal a little bit, but what I'm sure of is that we'll come out stronger. And what I want to do is to help you through the process, right? Help you through the process, right? So I want to help you for 2 days, get into drafting strategy, and it's going to be the 2 best days of your life, right? It's going to be morning and evening, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on Friday the 28th, and then 7 to 9 p.m., and then 9 a.m. to 12 noon on Saturday the 29th, and then 7 to 9 p.m. of that day, right? And what we're going to be looking at, this is the entire model. Again, this is going to be recorded. You can take a snapshot of this. There's going to be tons of, we're going to talk about, strategy, story, state. We're going to look at, I'm going to show you, we're going to do there's a model that I'm giving for free that is not listed here. It's an amazing model. It's called the Ultimate Route for Success. And I'm going to share with you how you can just really manifest whatever it is that you want. We're going to be talking about value proposition, developing USPs. We're going to be talking about strategy, reducing your sales and competence dependency. We're going to be talking about identifying ways to achieve your strategic objectives. We're going to be teaching you how to make more, spend less while maintaining or increasing the value of the product or service that you offer. People, processes, and controls. How do you choose the right people? How do you get inexpensive, dedicated staff? How do you identify the right processes? How do you do your market analysis? We're going to be looking at market analysis, industry analysis, customer segmentation, competitors, value innovation, pricing. We're going to be looking at dealing with HNIs. If you want to, work in the big leagues, you have to be able to deal with HNIs, right? We're going to be talking about how you grow your credibility with your ideal clients. How do you build lasting relationships? How do you learn to describe your work to inspire trust? We're going to talk about business networking, and we're going to be talking about selling, and of course, the different ways in which we can sell our business. Yeah. So how many of us can see my screen? Somebody says they can't see my screen. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, please say I can. Okay, great. So you can see now. Great. Okay, good. So it's going to be 2 days. Then we also are going to have we have a guest facilitator session that always happen at the Strategy Factory, and we like to bring doers. All of our Strategy Factory facilitators have in their own business done at least $1 billion in revenue, and I'm bringing in a personal friend of mine who not only has done more than $1 billion, was able to raise 5 billion naira in funding for a project. So please, you're going to come with all of us that have businesses that need to raise money. And you're going to come with all your questions to ask him on that day. All right? So what we're doing is that the Strategy Factory is usually 70,000 naira, but we're crashing it down to 35. We're crashing down to 35 so that you can get access to that. You'll be able to get access to all of the classes. All the classes will be recorded. So if you were not in the class, for example, you'll be able to watch the class just the same way this one is. We're going to provide access to alumni community. We have an alumni community of top business people, and the alumni community till date, and it's about to cross a huge number because I'm facilitating some business deals within the community now that would guarantee, and it's around a great 1-point-something billion naira good deal. And then I will give you access to some ebooks. You get the e-manual, and you will also get some ebooks. I'm going to start giving you ebooks today. I'm going to give you personal MBA after now. And so if you're interested, all of us are in a WhatsApp group. So you could indicate in the WhatsApp group, or you can send a message to this number. Vivian will contact you, or you can just indicate in the WhatsApp group so that we can follow up with you in the class, right? Okay, so if you are interested, thank you so much. I was hoping that this wouldn't take too long, but I'd like to answer any question. Any question, I would unmute everybody now. So for me to unmute, I would stop recording so that I can unmute. I would unmute everybody now, and then we can take a few questions for the next 7 minutes and call it an evening. Thank you.